Hello, everyone, and welcome back to part two of our YouTube mini series. In this video, we're going to cover a full mix session. I just like to show everybody how I complete a full mix, whether it's a song, whether it's a short clip, whether it's a song idea. This is where it all happens, and kind of how I do things. I want to start off by saying thank you so much, everybody, for all the positive feedback on social media from sharing the YouTube video. Just want to let everybody know that it helps if you uh, take a few seconds to like the video on YouTube. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you again so much. You'll see the mix in front of us, and it looks completely different than our last video. And that is because at the time I had the idea of using console emulation and then bringing it into the mixing session for the next video. Well, I completely took a different song in this video because the last song had just one track for all the drums put together. Like I had mentioned, the normal way that I would do it was to have each individual track. So in this video, I have everything separated as far as drums go. And you'll notice a lot in the video that I'm going to be using some presets. Normally, it is not recommended, but if you want to speed up your mixes a little better, some of the presets in the plugins that I'm going to be using are definitely a good start. So I'm going to set it on his go-to settings. And then from here, we're going to play the song. And then we will mix everything. All right, so let's get started. Here is the full song unmixed as if it was just sent to me. We're going to listen to it, we're going to see what it needs, and then we're going to get mixing. Let's do it. All right, pretty catchy, sounds pretty cool. I can notice right away that it sounds a little bit on the dark side. So I'm going to just keep a few mental notes when we bring everything up that we're going to have to brighten it up a little bit, and I'll show everybody how to do that. All right, so we've got kind of a rough mix to start with. A couple of things about the actual tracks itself. So we have a kick track, snare. We have a different kind of snare, just kind of in the background. We have our overheads, and then we have a couple different toms here, and then some drum fills. This track here is called the drum room. I obviously do not have a real set of drums, so when I made this track, I had the idea, and a lot of other people know how to do this technique, on creating a drum room. And a drum room track is basically just like an extra ambience color to the drums, where it's like an actual microphone that's kind of set up either outside of the room or far away, and it picks up the sound in the drum room. So in order to achieve that, I had to pretty much print all the drums together and then just add a ton of reverb and compression in order to get the sound. So let's listen to that soloed. And I'll just turn it up just so we can hear it. So we got that sound just to kind of add an extra layer of color into the drums. And then this is like a little intro that I made for the song, which will be blended in towards the end. There's like a cool like synth sound, because sometimes in rock music, just add a different, I don't know, kind of vibe to like a rock song. Some it will be kind of in the background, just playing a synthesizer. So I added that in there too. And then this last track is called Drums Parallel. This is pretty much just, another added layer to the drums. First order in top-down mixing. Like I said, going back into the intro of the video where I said that it sounded a little bit on the dark side, you can achieve a few things just by adding a little bit of touch to it. So let me get to it here. We're going to use the Universal Audio Manly Massive Passive. It's a fantastic plugin. It's one of the most popular pass-through EQs in the world. This thing's probably like $30,000 if I wanted to go out and buy one now. No, I don't think it's that much, but we do have the plugin emulations for these purposes, and they do work great. So we're going to boost the high end a little bit. Make sure we have a high shelf on. And we're just going to go over to 8K for our frequency. And let's just listen back as we go, and we're going to hear the difference on how the song becomes brighter just by doing these little things. I'm going to turn it all the way up just so we can hear it. It's way too much. Let's back it off. Let's bypass it. Bring it back in. So just right there, we got some action going. Let's boost a little bit of the mid-range too. Let's do like 1K. Sounds a little boxy, so let's pull it back. Good. That's a good start. The next order of business in top-down mixing that we want to do is I'm going to bring in an equalizer, bring in some EQ. I have so many plugins. It's always a good idea to use roughly the same type of plugins every time. One, they're easy to find, and two, so you don't get overwhelmed with the amount that you have. So this is going to be a pretty simple operation. I'm just going to put a high pass filter on here, and we're just going to cut out some of these really low frequencies. And I really like these kind of EQs because you could see the graphs and kind of just see where you're at too. So you'll see it when I play it. The next thing that we're going to do is, if we were doing this on a console or if we had outboard gear, the next thing that we would bring in would be a stereo pair of mic preamps. What I mean by stereo pair is two. And the reason why you would do that is because you're mixing in stereo. So inside the box, which is the way that we are mixing, if you just load one, it'll pretty much populate as two. So this looks a little bit familiar from the last video. We didn't use this exact one, but this is just strictly a preamp. We're not going to use any of the EQ here in this specific part. And we're just going to bring up the gain a little bit, and let's see what that sounds like. Just going to bring everything down a hair. We don't want to do any clipping. All right, with it off, and then with it on. After our preamp, then we want to bring in our glue compressor. This might look familiar from the last video. VCC mix bus. Brit 4KG, my favorite console setting for this. Just going to do a little bit something different with the drive here. Now again, we want to get between 3 and 0 for the mix bus. Let's check that out. Good. Now that we have that done, we're going to go straight to our drum bus. Again, we're still doing top-down mixing, so we're not going to go right into the individual tracks yet. We're going to do our buses first. So start with the drum bus, Pultec EQ, high frequency to 10 kilohertz, and we're just going to boost the low frequency a little bit and boost the high frequency a little bit, and let's see what we got. Back. The 10 is attenuate. Same thing as many of the other plugins that I like to use. I like to level match or gain stage as we go. It makes it a whole lot easier. Basically, I'm just bringing the lows out a little bit, but then I'm attenuating it because I don't want the lows to be like super powerful. I just want like the color of the lows to come out. I don't need them to be big, huge drums. So in order to do that, we could boost a little bit, and then we kind of attenuate it a little bit as well. Let's listen to it soloed. Off. And back on. Do the same thing with the highs. Only need a little bit. Attenuate a little bit. The next thing that we need, our SSL G-Bus compressor. This is going to glue all of our drums, all of our individual track drums together. Put everything together. Our EQ that we just did, and we're going to put it and copy it over to the parallel drums, because remember, it's the same thing as our regular drums. We're going to bring up the FG stress. Again, we're just going to choose a preset, but we're going to go from there. We will go to parallel nuke 1. You can see the different ratios down here. It's set the nuke, which is pretty much like an infinite ratio. We're just going to pretty much squash these drums here for the effect. Let's listen. I'll turn it up just for reference. You don't always have to go off of what the presets say, because every song is going to be different. It's pretty good. Let's blend that in now. What I mean by blending is we want to get this sound in, but we only want it to go just until you can start hearing it. all the way through. You can see the little things that I've done so far have been making a big difference already. All right, moving on. Let's go to individual tracks. Load up Universal Audio. We're going to go to the SSLE channel strip, one of my favorite plugins to use on drums, especially kick. And let's get a good kick sound out of this. Like I always say, I advise whoever is watching to use a good pair of headphones or a computer so that way you can really hear the full effect of what we're doing here. Big difference. One thing I always like to do is add a little bit of color to some of these drum channels. Let's add some saturation. This is a really cool plugin. All right, for those of you, real quick, that do not have, you might have a guitar, but you don't have, your amps. You don't have any of your other stuff that you use for a guitar. This is a awesome emulator for building a guitar rig. So you could build like an amp. You could build a cabinet, overdrive. It has everything in here that you need to build a whole guitar rig. And this particular thing, we're gonna do overdrive, and I like the diode 250. It's pretty much just a foot pedal, and it's just gonna bring a little bit of life to our snare. Let's solo this so we can hear it, and let's give it a shot. That's with it off. Wow, that's so dark. Didn't even notice before. Throw it back on. Just want to make sure we're at the level we need to be. And then in with the song. Now we're getting somewhere. Copy that over to our other snare. Moving on to the overheads. Let's go. So eventually you're going to get kind of, tired. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the next section, which is going to be the guitar. So then we're going to do the guitar. We'll blend in the bass and the synth. All right, moving on to guitar. I have the guitar track soloed, and I just like to make note too. Most of the time when mixing, you should have all the tracks on as you're mixing so you can kind of hear what it sounds like. But for this video demonstration, I want to have it soloed because I want to do a couple cool things to the guitars so that we could really hear the cool effects that I'm going to put on it. Let's do solo guitar starter. This has a really good amp on it already, so we're not going to do any distortion or saturation effects on it. But what I am going to do is I'm going to actually go up into our mixer window up here, and I'm just going to copy 2 more guitar melody tracks because we did all this layering to all the drum tracks. So kind of in order to bring the guitars to life, not only by just increasing the volume, but just to make the guitar sound a little bit thicker, a little bit more lively, we're going to add some cool effects to it. So I'll solo the 2 new tracks that we have, and I'm just going to pan one all the way to the left and one all the way to the right. And I'm going to bring in an effect from kilohertz, and I'm going to pull up pitch shifter. Just going to add just a little bit of a harmony to the guitar. So I'm actually going to pitch it up. Let's play that real quick. All right. Copy that over. Then I'm actually going to come into our default stock EQ plugin for Logic, which is also pretty cool. And I'm just going to bring in a high pass filter just to get a lot of the lows out of there because we want this to be more of an effect than we actually want it to be the guitar sound. Let's hear that. And then quickly, we're going to bring back in our original guitar track, and we're going to blend the new sound in. Let's hear it with everything. I also didn't want 100% of that effect to come through, so I'm just going to lower this down to 70 for both of these. Let's hear that. Without it. And with it. I'm actually going to take it a little bit further and put a delay plugin on it called Repeater. And what's a good one? Guitar Solo Y. Let's try that. Just going to turn this up so you can hear it. They have like a ping pong effect. Let's play that. For bass guitar, I'm not going to use the SSL. I'm just going to use our FGN EQ because we really only want two sounds out of this. We want the lows to come up a little bit and then a little bit of the mid and high range. All right, now that we got progress on those, let's bring in some reverb on the drums. And if we go over to our drum verb bus, this says bus 2, and these say bus 2 as well. So these are going out from here and into here. Just because we want just a little bit of reverb. We could control the amount of reverb with these little knobs right over here. You could raise them for more or lower them for less. So let's bring in a cool reverb plugin. I like the Verb Suite Classics. Just go to drums and start with this one. Just going to solo the snare real quick just to show what we're doing. Let's move on. Let's move on to our synth here. See what we got going on. Just gonna cut out some low end because I don't want it to blend in too much and crash with the bass, because the bass is gonna sit right in the same frequencies. Try that. Let's play it from the beginning all the way to end. Turn this up. Cool. At this point, like I said, I could go and dive in here a little bit extra and sort the rest of these out like our toms, but they all sounded pretty good already. So I'm going to move on to one of the last things that we would do. Let's go to our stereo out and bring in this plugin called the FGX2. And what this is going to do is it's going to bring us up to professional levels, whether it be for Spotify, for YouTube, for CD, things like that. So what's really cool about this is it has presets in it. Go over to metering, go on the streaming, and let's go to Spotify. Say we were going to eventually upload this song to Spotify. So we click Spotify. We could go back to our main channel here. And paying attention down here, I'm not going to go into details about what all this means in this video. But pretty much we want it to be in the green. And when I start playing the song, the number is going to go all the way down to about 15, 14, 13. That's going to be like the sweet spot for Spotify's acceptable levels of it being loud enough to be able to be heard on Spotify. I'm just going to set a basic compression just for leveling. Increase the threshold a little bit. Just going to get a little bit of gain reduction there. Our ceiling is going to be the loudest peak that the song can go. Normally you'd want that to be between -1 and -2 dB. That way you have no clipping once we increase the volume. We're just going to pay attention over here on this slider that's highlighted. Now I'm going to go ahead and play the song, and then I'm going to increase this input gain to make the track louder. Let's do it. We're in that sweet spot. So there you have it. That is a basic rundown of how I would normally mix my songs. So we added just a few different elements to it. We, kind of tightened up the drums by putting some EQ on it. Added a couple cool saturation effects on it to make it a little bit brighter, give it a little bit of color. And then we also took our solo guitar melody track, and instead of it being just like a boring guitar type sound, really brought out a few extra things by pitching it up, putting some delay on it, and then so on down the list. So that is the way that I mix my songs, especially for rock music. The only other thing I would do differently, since I mainly make hip hop and like dubstep music, is instead of doing the top down mixing portion, I would at least get the bus compressor in first, and then also roll off the very low frequencies there, just to be at a good starting point. And then, like any other time, I would bring all the levels up to get a good balance, and then start mixing the individual tracks from there, and then so on and so forth. So appreciate everybody's time again. Please again, like the YouTube video, comment, subscribe, whichever you choose. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a good night.